Yeah, that'd be good. Good evening and welcome to the November 29th, 2011 meeting of the Radnor Township Environmental Advisory Council. We appreciate everybody being with us tonight. Our first order of business after our call to order is usually minutes, but before we get to that, I would like to just take a minute to introduce our newest member of the EAC. We have a new Board of Health representative, Kelly Doyle, and we're very happy to have you with us from here on out, and we'll just give you a second to perhaps introduce yourself to the group.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm on the Board of Health. I've been a resident of Radnor for about 14 years. I'm the chief nursing officer at the Rothman Specialty Hospital. That's an orthopedic hospital. I was in the Jefferson University Health System for 22 years prior to that. And I have my master's in administration and community systems. And I was just promoted to CEO of the hospital last week.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, we're delighted to have you join us.
I'm happy to be here.
Great. And perhaps we should just go down the line so that Kelly knows our names as we skip. You want to start?
Skip.
Yeah.
Skip Kunda. I'm the liaison from the Planning Commission, and I'm a recovering lawyer and a entrepreneur now.
I'm Ann Poulin. I'm a member of the EAC, and I train lawyers so then they can go out and change their careers.
Right. And, you know, we've met. I'm Brenda Gotanda, and I'm a practicing lawyer. Sloan?
I'm Sloan Walker. I work for Morgan Stanley. I'd like to say I'm a lawyer, but I'll leave that off the table.
Great. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Okay. So our next item on the agenda is the review and approval of our minutes. Oh, very good. Dan is here. We'll give him his name tag. Very good. Review and approval of the minutes of our previous meeting, which was held October 27th. They've been distributed for review. Does anyone have any corrections or changes to the minutes? We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Minutes are approved. And thank you once again to Ann Poulin for preparing the minutes of last meeting and this coming meeting. And as you know, I love your minutes. I really love to read them. They're beautiful.
Much appreciated.
That's right. Okay. Next up are announcements. We have a few announcements. One, I wanted to remind everyone that this is our last meeting of 2011, so this is a combined meeting, November, December. We will resume again in January. Our next meeting will be January 26th, again at 6 p.m., but I wanted to note that it will be a very short meeting. We'll start at 6 and we'll probably only go for about half an hour or so because we also have scheduled that evening our next program in our sustainability series. That'll be focusing on electric cars and their infrastructure. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to our sustainability section on the agenda, but that program is going to include a panel of speakers. We'd invite everybody to come on out, learn about electric cars, learn about the energy, the grid, and the new public electric vehicle charging station in Radnor. That program will run from 7 to 9. We will have a Chevy Volt here for demo display beginning at 6:15, so folks can come on out a little bit early, check that out while we finish up our meeting, and then we'll roll right into that next program. And as I said, when we get to the sustainability section on our agenda, we'll go into a little more detail about speakers and such. Also, later on in the agenda, we'll talk about the electric vehicle charging station that's been installed in Radnor. But at this point on the announcements, I at least want to note there will be a ribbon cutting for that. That will be held Monday, December 5th, 2011, from 9:30 to 10:30 to celebrate the opening of that charging station. Again, we'll talk a little bit about that later on. I just want to make sure we include it in the announcements here. One other announcement that I have is an upcoming program that I received some information about called Cities Alive, 9th Annual Green Roof and Wall Conference in Philadelphia from November 30th to December 3rd at the Sheraton, downtown Philadelphia, conference to promote the full potential uses of living green infrastructure. They're going to have a variety of experts there who will be presenting information, research, and as well as policy design, product development for green roofs, walls, and other forms of green infrastructure. If anybody is interested, you can get more detailed information on the web at www.citiesalive.org, presented by Green Roofs for Healthy Cities and co-hosted by the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society and the City of Philadelphia. Okay. Does anyone else have any other announcements?
Yeah, I'd just like to note the opening of a very exciting store, the Valley Forge Flower Shop in the Eagle Village, which people may know about this, but they've done a very interesting LEED certified construction project over there, and they have a brochure that I think is cutting edge in terms of what they were able to do on that building. They've got geothermal mechanical systems, the demolition of portions of the existing building that were not previously occupied, did not add to landfills. They've got an explanation of what they did for the construction project. They've used low voltage mechanical equipment, low voltage lighting, natural daylighting, rainwater harvesting system, certified lumber and low flow plumbing, reclaimed materials were used throughout the building, efficient building components were used throughout the building, recycled content in the building, solar reflective materials, drought tolerant plants. It's really a leader, it seems, in green design, so I thought it was a very exciting development, and hopefully folks will go check it out. It's in Eagle Village, and I think they not only sell flowers and plants, but coffee and some snacks, so a fun addition.
Sounds great. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything?
There was supposed to be a special meeting in November on stormwater, Board of Supervisors, and it got canceled. And last I heard, it was going to be rescheduled in December. I didn't check the website today to see if it has been.
Okay, great. And we appreciate your volunteering to go cover that meeting for us and report back,
Sure.
right? Okay, very good. Well, the next item on our agenda is a special presentation that we have. We're very fortunate to have with us this evening Gail Tyndall-Scott, who is with the US EPA Office of Air Partnership Programs, and she is here today to give us a presentation on EPA's Green Power Partnership and Green Power Community Program. We'll hear a little bit about that. We've been working on our greenhouse gas action plan and talking about opportunities for green power. So this will be terrific timing for us to learn a little bit more about it. In addition, I just wanted to note that we also have with us this evening Alex Fuller-Young from the Energy Cooperative, and he actually put us in touch with Gail, and he can kind of talk about if we have questions about purchase of renewable energy. I know we've had somebody from the Energy Cooperative here before, but it seemed to make sense to have him here for Gail's presentation. So Gail, if you'd like to come on up. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Now, should I keep this level? Okay,
Yeah.
you can hear me okay?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, good evening, Environmental Advisory Council. Again, my name is Gail Tyndall-Scott. You can just call me Gail Scott. I am a Clean Energy Program Manager at the Environmental Protection Agency in Philadelphia at 17th and Arch, right across the street from the Comcast building, to kind of keep our sun out of there. First of all, I just want to thank the town of Radnor for your interest in the environment. I can clearly see from, I looked at your website, I kind of know the area, your commitment to fighting global warming pollution, or the more correct terminology, climate change. That's what we're supposed to say now. And as you already know, this crowd is pretty much enlightened about what pollution is all about, but just let me remind you that conventional electricity is one of the most significant environmental impacts in the world. 80% of our greenhouse emissions, that's the NOx, SOx, CO2, comes from energy generation and energy use. And we, the United States, basically contributes up to 20% of those emissions, yet we only make 5% up of the world population. So what does that say about us? Well, as world leaders, we have a chance to redeem ourselves. We have a chance to make amends. So I'm here to tell you about a very important program that EPA has kind of rolled out in the last several years, and it's called the Green Power Partner Program, and then from there we go on to the Green Power Community Initiative. Okay. First off, we need to talk about what is green power. Green power, as the screen said, is an environmentally differentiated electricity product from the following sources. Of course, we all know about solar, and that's the very easy, most common. People pretty much understand it. It's not really all that expensive, and it's probably the most common use. The next we have on, if you look, is wind. Wind is our fastest growing renewable energy source in the United States. And just sitting there talking to Alex just a few minutes ago, he was basically saying this, his organization, within the next year, their goal is to increase their renewable use through wind power. Then there's geothermal, which is basically putting a pipe in the ground and getting the energy from our earth. Then we have biomass, and that is basically burning leftover wood chips, very popular in states with abundant wood forests such as Georgia and South Carolina. Then we have small hydro, and that's flowing water to produce electricity or mechanical energy. Projects such as these pretty much makes up our renewable energy source that we're using in the United States. In fact, I think it's about 81%, which makes up about 10% of our national electricity use. And last, we have biogas. And as they say, treat your waste efficiently and get energy for your effort. And biogas is basically a conversion of natural organic material mixed with methane, carbon dioxide, and a small traces of gas processed to create energy. And I guess an example would be there's a project in India where they use cow dung for energy use. Again, I'm referring to you, Alex mentioned something about cheeses in a farm in, a farm in Pittsburgh, where they're taking the leftover part of whey and Swiss cheese and processing that for energy. That's something that's kind of interesting. So, again, so our idea for EPA is to bring green power to the people. That's the way that we can combat this. So you probably want to know, how do you go about procuring green power? What is involved, and how can you purchase this green power? Well, first of all, you can do on-site generation. I'm not sure if Radnor is involved in any of that, but that would again include using solar panels. You could construct your own hydropower plant or install geothermal pipes. Some of this can be relatively expensive, and some of our partners use a mix of that type of use.
We actually have some of that in our school districts. There's some solar panels and some geothermal.
That's great. So again, solar is probably the most popular and common use of it. People can really get that. Next we have green power electricity products. And this gets a little tricky when people don't quite understand what they're buying when they're buying green power. Basically, when you buy this, you can buy it from like a regular utility company, which is PECO. I think PECO right now has got a new company, PECO Wind. And then we have lots of other new renewable energy utility companies, such as Alex's organization. We have, Native, I believe, what are they called? Native Wind. We have WSEG, which is Washington Services. Wait a minute, Washington Services, which is coming in our area. They were pretty much responsible for the District of Columbia being #1 this past year. And then, of course, renewable energy certificates. That's buying a REC. And you guys seem like you're pretty knowledgeable what that all entails. I mean, if you want to ask me a question about that. But basically, when you buy a REC, you're basically buying electricity generated from one MWH, as I just call it. Renewable RECs are something that people don't quite understand. They're thinking, well, am I getting my electricity from a windmill in Pennsylvania, a windmill in Texas? How does that come about? How is the conversion happening there? No, basically what's happening with the REC is that the energy basically is going all into the grid, where conventional electricity is going into. So you're not really buying the energy, but you're purchasing and you're investing into green power, the green power industry. Basically, the more demand, the more supply, and that's what we're trying to basically advocate here is better green technology. So,
I have a question.
sure.
RECs are basically pre-existing green-generated energy that's many times run by someone with a private business, and then the utility buys the REC because they have to have a certain percentage of their energy generated from those sources. Is that a good way to put it?
So basically what you're saying, it's like an offset.
Well,
It's basically
they,
it's a
either the
trading-
utility would have to build their own green power generation, or they could buy it. They
Right, so
could,
they need to buy their RECs in order to meet the
State
the
regulations.
renewable portfolio standards, right?
I think that sounds pretty accurate. Let me ask Alex, would that be your understanding? Or?
Yeah, I mean, so the rec market.
Alex, can you maybe come up to the microphone, because
Yeah.
otherwise the audience can't hear you.
Since this is my day in, day out activity, dealing with recs in the rec world, and of course it's so kind of nuanced, and of course we're still, as an organization that's been doing this for years, grappling with how to kind of educate consumers and the general public on this. But so recs, of course, are is a commodity that's essentially produced by a green, a renewable energy facility. And what it essentially represents is the environmental benefit of that facility. So every unit of energy that's created, every megawatt hour, there's a REC that's then associated with that. And so what that enables is that in the market, people can then trade, buy and sell this commodity, and essentially take ownership of those environmental qualities. And of course, as you mentioned, the mandatory market as the alternative energy portfolio standard creates, that entails a RECs because they can be trade, bought and sold on that market. And then there's the voluntary market, which of course Gail is going to touch upon today, whereas outside of those mandatory regulations where, the general public or other entities can then purchase those RECs.
So
we
do
could
have an
take up the whole
understanding of-
time, so I won't do that.
Yeah, it's a really tough concept to understand, and since Alex was up here, I wanted to give an example of a renewable company that would offer green power and what his company basically consists of and what do they offer. So for 2010, basically, a proportion, about 80% of their green power came from hydroelectric. And then 2% came from solar, and I believe 10% came from wind. However, just in the next year, as I mentioned earlier, how wind is becoming more popular, the fastest growing renewable energy, their company is changing to getting most of their power from wind. So that's a great thing, and that basically it shows that the demand is working and that the supply that's happening with our Pennsylvania wind farms is, it basically is benefiting. It's going to benefit all of us. So we've talked about what green power is. We talked about how you're going to get it. Hopefully, from this discussion, you'll be able to talk to experts outside of myself, people in our headquarters office, and our contractors to tell you how to get that green power. So the first step in doing this, of course, is EPA's Green Power Partnership. Basically, it is a voluntary program that supports the organization of procurement of green power. We would support you by offering our expert advice, technical support, tools, and resources. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to agree to purchase green power in the next 6 months and provide annual updates. In return, EPA commits to providing public recognition, which is huge for a community such as Radnor, provide procurement and communications assistance, and as requested by you, but also we have a very, very zealous staff in headquarters, and our contract staff is great. And when we talk about the government is here to help, in this case, we really are here to help. We're very helpful when it comes to that type of assistance. And of course, you get to get a brief description of your project and your community on our Green Power Partnership website, which is a huge deal, gets lots of hits. Currently, since April of 2006, there are more than 1,300 partners in the program. And I was just going over the list. I saw a couple of the partners, and I sometimes get mixed up on what is Radnor and in the main line, but I saw that Eastern University, is that a part of the township? Haverford College.
Yeah, Haverford's in the next township.
Okay, Haverford's in the next township. I couldn't really see if there are any companies that are in this general area. I don't know if you all have explored that, but again, we do have access to our website, which is very simply, if you Google Green Power Program, EPA's Green Power Program, it'll take you to our website. There's a partner list, and you can kind of, kind of cruise through it, and you'll be able to find out what partners could possibly already be in the Radnor Township.
In the past, we have purchased, several years ago, we purchased renewable energy from Community Energy for a couple of years.
Okay. So you do have a good relationship with them. Are they actually located in this area?
They are in Radnor.
Okay. Okay. They were actually a part of a meeting that I had a couple weeks ago, which I will tell you a little bit more about. Okay. Going on to our next screen. So it's not to be confused. I wanted to first talk about a little bit about Green Power Green Power Partner, and then from that comes our Green Power Communities Initiative, and that's basically involving your entire community, and that would be the geographical area of Radnor Township. That would be your businesses, that would be citizens, that would be universities, your hospitals. I think you've got the big Radnor Hotel here. All of them would be involved in reducing your community's carbon footprint by procuring green power. You do it all together. Now, we only have currently in the nation 33 green power communities nationwide. But collectively, as you can see here, the use of 3.3 billion kilowatt hours, they avoid 2.3 million metric tons of CO2 emissions, which is huge, which is equal to CO2 emissions from 450,000 cars and equal to the annual electricity use of 285,000 average American homes, which is pretty impressive. Though it takes a little bit more work in putting together a green power community, it is worth the effort. It's a really big bang, not only for the environment, for your buck, but in terms of the image for your community, it is something that is very beneficial.
Are the communities that you have participating in that now, the 33, are they primarily cities, larger?
We've got all types of cities, and the way you sign up is based on your electricity usage with your percentage. For example, Swarthmore, who's your neighbor next door, they were number 3 in terms of their community size as part of that 33. So they've done really well, and they're anxious to help you. I've spoke with Janet Billings, I believe, who's the city manager, who is pretty excited. They've gotten, I know, a lot of publicity. I don't know if you guys read just recently, there was an article when they made the announcement about them being a green power community in the Inquirer. Sandy Bauer did a nice little spread on them. So the good news about this is that this was the first year of the challenge, so it's just kind of building a momentum. So for Radnor to come in the next 1 or 2 years would be something that would be really great.
And just to clarify, you and I had a telephone conversation beforehand, but and Josh participated in that as well. So it was my understanding from that in order to be a green power community, you first become a green power partner so that the municipality itself is purchasing the required percentage of green power, and then this next level involves the whole entire community.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I will get in that a little bit more, Brenda, so you can be outlined in your brain. I kind of have that coming up. So, because this is a little confusing, because even when our initial conversation, we were talking about Green Power Community, and they were like, wait, you guys have to be a Green Power partner first, which is not that difficult. With our next slide, what you see is an example of a community. And again, it reduce environmental impacts of electricity use, the whole community pride and image. I know that Radnor has a lot of pride. I know people that work at EPA that live in the township with your schools and all that you have, your great shopping, you have a great TJ Maxx. It's just a great place to, it's a great place to live. So, and a very progressive community. Also, it builds bridges between the community and the utility industry. To me, my thought was utility industry, and it's anybody here work for PECO? I hope not. There's been a little bit of kind of a distrust, and it's making the utility industry be a little bit more forthcoming and also show their commitment and what they feel for the environment. So it's a good gap in bringing them together. And again, it makes a great media story. The media is always looking for a great climate change story. As again, I mentioned the Swarthmore story. Also, there was a story like the second page of the Inquirer on what Upper Merion is doing with their schools with energy efficiency. So you can get really good publicity out of this. And also, I think it would be a great little challenge between you and Swarthmore. And again, it's a stepping stone for a more collective sustainable action, which you guys seem to have a lot of momentum going so far with sustainable efforts, looking from your website, so it won't be really difficult. You see the slide shows a copy of an EPA press release. We do all that. The press release, we send out the little kits, the little banners that you get. So you get a lot of support with this. Now, as Brenda just mentioned, requirements for being a green power community. First, the local government must join as a green power partner. You have to stake your claim as that you are leaders. Like, we have done this, guys. We're ready for our whole community to step up. It's a good thing. Then the community joins as a community partner. And the way they do that is that you get together basically a collective purchase by your businesses, your citizens, your universities, your hospitals, your hotels, any big retail that might be in the area. Kind of get them together and figuring out how we can make this a huge collective purchase. And again, you would be responsible, the local government, in providing the annual updates of community-wide electric and green power use. Okay. Our next slide basically shows green power benchmarks, but this is for the community-wide use. It's the same numbers, but what I want you to keep in mind before you get to this step is basically what type of data you have to report and what you have to become a green power partner. If you're over 100 million, if all of your municipal buildings, I don't know how many municipal buildings that you have or what is considered, and I'm not even sure if the schools would be considered part of your municipality in terms of your local government.
Josh is our key data guy.
Sorry, you're asking if the schools are part of the municipal?
Yes.
They're not part of our. They're not underneath the ownership or of the township, but we do have a sort of a special relationship with the school district, and we are, I guess, we're trying to work with them in terms of meeting environmental goals, and so something like this, we would be able to make recommendations to the school district,
right? Okay.
To join in and have we have a close relationship, like I said, and they would.
But they have their own decision-making body, so
Okay.
it would be different than the Board of Commissioners that
Okay.
makes decisions for the municipal operations.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because what we would consider here, basically, for you as an entity, what is your electricity usage? Out of this building, I guess the police department is connected here.
Downstairs.
And I don't know what other buildings you have, but that's what you have to consider for, and out of that, if it's over this, as you see as the illustration, your green power usage would exceed, for the first category, 3%. The second category is 5%, and the last is 10%. And for some reason, I think you guys would probably fit in that very first category. Does that sound like it would be right in terms of what you?
The top category?
Yeah.
So this is
I'm thinking this is-
community-wide.
Oh, wait a minute,
This
wait a
is-
minute, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Let's go down. Yeah, it would be, would you be under 10? Not community-wide, we're thinking your usage of your municipal buildings.
If you're talking just about the municipal buildings that Radnor Township owns, I think we would be in the bottom category.
The bottom
there, under
category.
10 million.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, got
And
it.
I'm not positive about that, but that's just my
Right.
recollection.
No, that's what I was thinking, I kind of flipped it. Okay.
Now, are these percentages that you're showing the percentages that would apply to a green power partner? Because this indicates this is community-wide electricity use, so don't you have different numbers that you apply when you're looking for green power partner?
You know what, this is, I looked, I have a copy of the agreement, let me just give it to
Okay.
you right now. And basically, the numbers are the same. There's another category for 20%. This would be the actual agreement. On the back is basically what you sign. I do have more.
And actually, Jim, if she lays that on the table, can you put that up on the screen for us? I think what he's going to do, see, he's got the table
Okay.
on the screen now.
Oh, okay.
Maybe just let him know which one you want him to focus on. Maybe pull.
The other way? Okay.
Maybe pull it down just a little bit so he can focus on it. Yeah. Okay.
This agreement is actually available on the website that anyone can access, and it can be faxed in or electronically sent in. And if you look at the numbers, it's pretty much the same. There's another category for which would be a 20%. So do we have any?
So based on these numbers, Josh, do you have
I
a
believe we'd be in the
sense?
10% goal range.
Okay.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe we're somewhere around there.
Okay.
All right.
And again, you would have assistance on this, okay, in getting those numbers correct. For the community-wide use, that is going to be something that you'll have to pull from your utility company to figure out what, the geographical area and what's the usage. That sometimes can be a little bit difficult. I don't know what your relationship's like with the company. You might already have that. I believe Washington Electric has good numbers. Do you recall, Alex, at the last meeting that they were going to help Philadelphia? They actually said they had numbers for Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, each supplier has, yeah, each supplier has numbers, of course, based on, geographic area. So, for instance, talking to the folks in Swarthmore, what they do is come time to give their numbers, they'll give up a call to some contact that they have at each company, including the energy cooperative, and simply ask for the usage and appropriate green power usage in that community. So we just pull, the different zip codes, find our members and their usage, and then hand that over to them.
So what we would need to do then is to reach out to all of the different companies that are selling electricity in this market and provide zip codes, et cetera, and then get
For the right,
information.
that's for the green power community program.
Right.
For you folks, it would be a lot easier. Whoever you're buying your
Right.
renewable energy credits for, you just contact them. But for the community-wide program, you'd have to reach out to each supplier because, of course, each company might be working with a different residency or business in your area.
Right, okay.
And it's not as difficult as it may sound, and because there's others before you, we can help between the partners and between our technical staff can kind of help you maneuver through that. So looking at our, any questions on you're looking at the agreement. Again, it's pretty straightforward. Your first purchase has to be within 6 months, though, of when you sign the agreement. Now, I'm now asking the council a question. Brenda, have you guys considered purchasing green power in the future? Is it something that's going to be?
Well, I mentioned to you before the meeting, we're currently working on a greenhouse gas action plan, and in there we do have recommendations concerning purchase of green power. So what we're trying to do is develop a full action plan. We will consult, we've already consulted with township staff on that. We're now putting together a draft for them to review, a complete draft to review, get their input, and then we will make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners. And our role is basically as an advisory committee, so they would be making the decisions. And my view would be that if they accepted the recommendations in our greenhouse gas action plan, and if we had a recommendation that would be at least 10% or higher, then, you know, once we made the decision to go forward, then obviously we would enter into the agreement. We wouldn't enter into the agreement and make the commitment if we didn't have a plan to go forward and purchase the green power. Right now, we are not purchasing green power, to my knowledge, but as I said, a few years ago we had done so. So we're hopeful that you know, people would be on board with that going forward.
Okay. Well, I'll give you probably the worst case scenarios would be the city of Philadelphia. You know, what they have to deal with politically, with their budgets, with the different personalities, with basically a council and a mayor that is just, you know, taxed with so many other problems. They were able to get their purchase through. However, and when it came time for public recognition, we had to be very low-key about it. They did not choose to have the big fanfare because of the optics of it. So it's, you know, each town, each entity has their own kind of different needs that they have, but it seems to me that you guys would probably not have such a difficult time. The District of Columbia, I believed, kind of went through basically the same. I don't think it was as difficult, and they really did want the public recognition when it came time.
And so to the extent that we advocate for purchase of a requisite amount and the township agrees to go ahead and do that, we sign on to the partnership agreement. You know, I'm not sure for how many years it
Right.
would continue. Is there some type of a term
Yeah,
in
there
your
is something
agreement?
in there that says that you can at any time, you know, for example, this past year, Philly was going to be dropped. I'm sorry, I keep using Philadelphia because that's who I've been working around right now. They almost were dropped off the partner list because they just weren't able to do it because of those political reasons, but then they were able to get it through the door. So you can kind of go back and forth.
Okay.
So that's the good news. So our next hearing, we basically talk about best practices and lessons learned, and that's basically from our aspect on what we've seen. And although I haven't been in the program very long, from what I've heard of what's happened to other towns with DC and what we're going through, with Philadelphia, the first crucial point, of course, is getting the community-wide usage. Getting that's the first critical thing that we have to pull together. And then consider convening your key stakeholders early. You got to get people, entities, universities, which are really good, very progressive about, you know, they have a lot of resources. They've got usually very environmentally friendly. We've got University of Pennsylvania that's a really big partner with us, Carnegie Mellon and Pittsburgh, Eastern University, Harvard College, and I believe Cabrini College, which is that it?
Cabrini is here.
Okay, is here. Great. So, you know.
So basically, if they are already purchasing green power, then that's a big chunk
Right.
toward meeting the community requirements.
Right, right. If I'm sure, and I got to double check that if it was Cabrini that I saw, so don't hold me to that. But anyway, I don't know if you have any big business here that are in this area. I tried to look for that. I was looking at your Chamber of Commerce, but I couldn't see if there was a
Big business.
Yeah. Like we have Comcast
Well,
across
you
the
know,
street.
Brandywine Realty Trust has their headquarters here, and I know that they've been doing a lot with respect to sustainability. I don't know if they're
Okay.
purchasing green power, but I know that they're on the radar screen there.
Okay, that's great.
I'm not
And
sure
your
about
Chamber of
others.
Commerce is key for this also.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what we are looking, our first meeting we convened with basically the energy suppliers, just to kind of get their thoughts, because Philadelphia is a different kind of an animal. And then from there, we're going on to basically a collaborative. We're going to get the partners, which is Philadelphia Eagles, the Flyers are our partner, University of Pennsylvania, SEPTA is a partner, Drexel, we're trying to get Drexel on board. So we're going to pull some of them together and have like a campaign on throughout the city about giving people, giving people the green power. And our challenge will be to Washington, D.C. That's actually, there would be the same community, our size. And we're going to have a challenge. The mayor, we hope, will be out there with Comcast, with some of the others, talking about how Philly's going to kick their butts. So this is going to be like a nice little, I guess you could do the same with Swarthmore. So really, strategic outreach matters. And it seems to me you've got several leverage points from what I could see for some of the activities that you're doing. I guess you have green buildings in the area.
Yeah, I think we probably have, at this point, maybe 4 or 5 green buildings in Radnor.
Which is
At
great.
least, yeah.
You can use that, there's a lot of interesting ways that you can use outreach. Also, some not-for-profits. I mean, the federal government, we're kind of limited on how much we can do for not-for-profits, but like Penn Futures, if you have any of those, a Sierra Club or any of those in the area that might be interested in helping you launch this, might be interested in helping with a media
Actually,
campaign.
one of our members is the, who's not here with us tonight,
Okay.
but one of our members is the chairman of the board of the Sierra Club.
Oh, that's great.
So
Right.
I think we
So
could probably
hopefully
get their
he's
help if needed.
Okay, hopefully they're watching.
Yeah.
So that's, it's really matters to get that outreach. Then again, there's going to be multiple providers. And it's good to have Alex sitting next to Community Energy or WSEG, because the competitiveness is good for the industry. It just raises the level of awareness. So that is, competition is good for this type of endeavor. And once you get it going, you convene and you maintain a stakeholder working group. We're going to try to, I guess what we're doing with Philadelphia and our stakeholders, we're going to try to have meetings every couple weeks to get things going till we get to our big announcement of that we made being a green power community. Right now, Philadelphia is just a few weeks from it. Basically, the city itself, with the numbers that they have, we could be a green power community. And we're just kind of waiting for that to happen, but we're just going to get everybody else on board. And again, you provide it at annual updates, and you're going to get all the recognition in the world.
Can I ask you a question about
Sure.
the residential part of things? I mean, it's great to get the big
Yeah.
partners, and
Right.
and we could get a long way towards our goal, I think, going with that. But we're pretty heavily residential in the township. I can't swear to it, but there's a 2005 DVR, Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission study about climate change. And I think in Radnor Township, I think they had us listed as somewhere around 90% of our usage is residential.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
So what kind
But I can follow
of
up that.
what kind of assistance can we get to at the, residential outreach? That's going door to door there is
Right.
impractical. It would need to be more of a mailing or
Right.
emailing campaign. Do you know anything about doing that?
Well, Josh, actually, I've been kind of remiss to not talk about that segment, because basically Swarthmore was a community movement. It was residential. They were really behind it. And right now with Philadelphia, there's a community organization in University City that is trying to get their residents, different little civic organizations within the pockets of community where the residents are really interested. So in terms of building this community group, you really need to do outreach to citizens, because they're really kind of the blood that kind of keeps this going. So I'm sorry if I didn't really make that point clear. And Swarthmore, again, would be a good example. They're really revved up. I think they were born with green blood. They're just it's a very interesting group. But you're right. And
Gil,
the way
could I follow up on that?
Sure.
I know PICO gives residential customers an option to select green power as one of the choices, I
Right.
think. Would that qualify in terms of a green power residential initiative if we committed to publicizing and talking about
Right,
that?
I believe so. That would count as green power. The thing about what PECO's doing in some of the utility companies, there's a lot of confusion, consumer confusion, and not really understanding what green power is all about. So part of this is not only getting the count of the green power that's, can come from residents, but also kind of raising their awareness and their understanding of what green power is all about. A lot of folks just don't quite
Actually, that
understand.
raises a good point, because in the Philadelphia Inquirer, maybe just a couple of days ago, they had a big article about electric choice,
Right.
and they had listed there with footnotes several companies indicating who is offering renewable power, but it wasn't at 100% necessarily. Some were at a 20% or something. So does your definition include if you're buying from somebody who's giving you 20%, or if a resident is signing up, does it need to be 100%?
It has to be, it can be bundled. That would be considered, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, if this is a bundled purchase. Come up again.
So, for instance, when Swarthmore contacted us and said, what is our green power usage? We actually have two products. We have a 100% product and a 20% product. So what we do is we take 100%, okay, that's your usage. And then we look at our Swarthmore members using the 20%, and then we essentially take their usage and then take 20% of that and say, okay, we'll add that to it. So it's just the green power portion. So it's essentially everything that's being offset by RECs. So yeah, you'd have to go into the details of,
So 20% contributes to it,
Right,
but not to,
exactly.
okay.
So
All
it
right,
can
but
be
not the
bundled.
same
It
level.
doesn't necessarily have to be
Okay.
100%. But again, this type of initiative will help your residents making those type of choices, because they don't understand. And I myself, being fairly new to the program, was just kind of confused in what it's all about. And there really isn't. I live in Philadelphia in the Mount Airy neighborhood, and there's just not really a lot of outreach to kind of talk about it. And people don't necessarily trust the utility company. I just have to say that. So it would be good if local government and businesses kind of talk about it, like lay it out in maybe 3 steps, a nice little publicity campaign on what this is all about and making your choices. There are a couple websites. Penn Futures has a nice one that kind of lays it out, and I believe the other one is it PA Wind, or there's another website that kind of lays it out easy. But for the most part, the average citizen is, I think, is confused. Now, you may not call Radnor the average citizen, but everybody could use a little help in terms of outreach and talking about green power.
About small technical question. I'm looking at on-site users of green power. Since we already have some geothermal and some solar, that would count. In other words, whether it's a homeowner with solar panels on the roof or the school district with solar panels or geothermal wells, that counts towards the percentage.
Right. The geothermal definitely. With solar, there's an issue of if those RECs have been traded already. If it's from the school district, I can't imagine that they would trade
I don't
them.
think
No.
that they've traded their.
Yes.
But the whole idea of RECs is that it makes your return faster by selling your RECs.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem, though, is that once you sell your RECs, then you can no longer claim that you have renewable power, because the
Yeah.
REC is the environmental attribute.
Right.
So
So
you'd have
that's
to-
something that we have to find out. Geothermal, though, I believe that would count.
Because there are no RECs for geothermal, or?
See, but that would be on site.
Well, I think the thing
Yeah.
is with a
That's
REC, in order
construct.
to get the REC, is my understanding, right?
Right.
So we're in the PJM grid. So if you are generating electricity, if you're sending it into the grid as compared to just using it on site, then you register with them. They have a whole framework set up as to how to register a REC. Now, if Josh has geothermal and he's just using it in his house and he hasn't gone to all the trouble to register it with PJM, he may not have a certificate to evidence it, but he's
Right.
still got renewable power that he's using. So we would have to kind of sort that out, whether we have to have RECs to evidence it,
Right.
or whether we are generating and using it in the community without necessarily a REC to evidence it.
Correct.
We'd have to work
So,
that out,
and
yeah.
again, this is something that we will give you step by step. We'll have our contractors work with you, which is Anthony Amato, and then our headquarter expert was Blaine Collison. I don't know if anyone has met him. Okay, so let's talk again about what EP offers to the green power communities. I think I pretty much went over it. Metrics and credibility, how much green power is enough. You raising the question of what counts as a REC will help you get through that. Will help you determine what is an eligible renewable resource, whether the solar panels at the school district, it will be eligible in terms of a REC. Expert advice, which is not going to come just from me. It's going to come from folks back in our headquarters office that will help you determine the environmental benefit of different options. And then also what it does, it just gives you, creates a network of like-minded organizations and communities. What was really kind of fun and fascinating a few weeks ago when we met with with the city of Philadelphia and pulling in our energy suppliers. We had Swarthmore at the table, we had University City at the table, and it was just interesting. We were kind of exchanging what each other is doing, and there was a lot of great energy in the room. I mean, ooh, energy. So that is something that is, it's just really beneficial to just your mission, period, and what is going on in other communities and what's going on in your own community. And again, of course, we offer the recognition, and the press on this and the publicity is absolutely priceless. Of course, you get the use of the Green Power Partner mark, as you can see. That's the little mark that goes on a plaque. And then, of course, you'll be eligible for leadership awards. There was just a big leadership award conference that was in San Francisco last week, which would have been very nice to, if you get to that point, to be able to attend, which I know you will. Okay, Green Power Community Brand, you're highlighting successful campaign. These are examples of some of our towns and entities. We give you artwork for community banner, press release assistance. The list goes on. And then, the outreach materials doesn't necessarily have to come from EPA or from you. You could have somebody sponsor you. For example, of the city of Lacey, Pacific Power did a nice little layout for them, thanking them for their commitment to the environment. Now, if you look at the next screen, basically this shows our top green power communities. And right now, as you see, Washington, D.C. is the top. And basically, green power use was 8%. And these are the providers that they used: Washington Gas Energy Services, Constellation New Energy, and Clean Currents. I don't know if you all have heard Clean Currents. I think they're pretty much in the area. Let's see, Rockville, Maryland, which was at 3%, and they've used Washington Gas Energy Services, Renewable Choice, Constellation, various Hess Energy, On-Site Generation, Viridian, Pepco, and Clean Currents. So are you all pretty much aware of your energy suppliers in the area? For the most part?
Yeah.
Okay. And what I want to do is pass out the list where we have Swarthmore, which was number 19, but number 3 in terms of their community. And you can see basically what their usage is.
And while you're passing that out, I'll just make an observation. Oregon and Washington sure are dedicated to this cause, as they have the highest percentage, which I think would probably be a almost more important statistic rather than a total power usage, because you can conserve power and drop your usage, whereas you can still purchase a higher percentage. So interesting to note that.
Is there some incentive for Oregon communities to do this, or it's just the general thinking out there?
I think it's probably general thinking, but also I think if you go out in that area, there's windmills. I mean, energy conservation is just a huge thing out west. It's a huge thing, and it's you applaud when the West does things. I mean, it's great, but it's even a bigger deal when it happens in the Northeast. because it's really hard to get people to focus. We don't have as much in terms of land use. Just, in terms of cars on the road, just getting people to to think the way of thinking differently about energy is the recognition is, when we do it on the East Coast, it's a big deal. I'm not going to say it's easier to do on the West Coast, but I think in terms of significance, for Washington, D.C., when people think about the government and the bureaucracy and all the stuff that they have to get through, and also just the pollution in that area, it's really kind of saying a lot. So let's see what's next. Now, so basically that kind of ends it. First, the town of Radnor would be so interested, or a Radnor Township, I should say, in signing up to be a partner, which is just simply maybe one simple step, figuring out your usage and making a commitment in the next 6 months. And then from there, talk about being a green power community. I'm Gail Scott. I'm here to help from EPA. Helping Philadelphia now. They're pretty much on their feet. My colleagues Blaine Collison and Anthony Amato are also, I have their phone numbers for in terms of the last person, Anthony Amato, is our technical guy who's just ready to pick up the phone to offer you any assistance, but please don't hesitate to talk to me. I can be your conduit in getting to them. And once you become a partner, then the skies will be the limit for Radnor. And, I'm hoping that this could happen. I hope that my presentation was helpful. If you have any more questions, I can answer them. And if I can't answer them, I promise I can get back to you.
Great. Well, we really appreciate your coming out tonight and sharing all of this information with us. It looks like a terrific opportunity for us, and particularly now since we're working on our greenhouse gas action plan, it seems to be the right timing. And, to the extent that we can make it happen in terms of the purchase of the power, then I think the agreement to participate is really a no-brainer. And so our first hurdle is really getting the information. And I think Alex was going to be working with us, and Josh was going to be providing some information to him so that we can get some pricing and present that to the Board of Commissioners for consideration. And this looks like a terrific opportunity if we can make that happen. And we'll definitely reach back out to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope you guys have a great holiday. And if you need more assistance, if you need somebody to come out to talk to you with those numbers, please do not hesitate. And thanks again.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations on your promotion and being on the council.
Great. All right. Now, next up on our agenda is another guest presentation. We have with us tonight John Fisher from the Radnor Conservancy and Stephen Safier from Audubon, Pennsylvania. They're here to do a presentation on the Audubon Birdtown program. So thank you for coming out and for your patience. And your presentation should also be loaded up on the computer there.
I'm just going to make a short introduction, and then we'll turn things over to Steve. As Brenda mentioned, I'm John Fisher, president of the Radnor Conservancy, and the Conservancy has been considering for probably about a year now whether to recommend to the township that it become a bird town under Audubon's program. When we first approached the township with our recommendation, they suggested that as an initial step, we go before the EAC and the Parks Board to get your recommendation that the township also proceed to the next step to adopt a bird town program. And after several scheduling snafus, we finally have made the November-December meeting. I'd like to start with a short introduction and then turn the program over to Steve. Steve is from Audubon, PA, and runs the local program for the southeastern Pennsylvania area. Birdtown is a program which is run on a township-wide basis. There are approximately 12 townships in southeastern Pennsylvania which now do have Birdtown programs, and hopefully Radnor would become number 13. Birdtown is a holistic approach to improving the environment within the township. The program is aimed at the township itself, individual homeowners, institutions and schools, local businesses, any organization that can really help to improve the environment in the township overall. Birdtown offers a variety of programs which Steve will be describing, and these programs can be customized by each township as it decides how it wants to achieve its environmental goals. As Steve will explain, the 12 townships that are currently in the program have very different programs which, as I said, have been customized for how they think that they need to, the steps that they need to take to achieve their goals. Why focus on birds other than the fact that this is an Audubon program? Birds are a symbol of the health of your environment. Quite simply stated, native plants attract insects which are native to this area, and native insects will then attract birds which are native to this area. Invasives do not attract native insects because they didn't grow up using those kind of plants. So this is really a program that promotes the development, among other things, of planting native species. Now you could study this program by looking at your insects that are on your trees, but frankly it's a lot easier and frankly a lot more fun to keep track of the birds in your backyard than the insects in your backyard.
You'd have to call it Bugtown otherwise.
But if you want to go out of
You're right.
if you want to go out of February 15 and count the bugs in your first trees, you can do that. Insects are critical to the health of your environment. And one way that, as I said, we can keep track of the insects and how we are doing in terms of improving our environment is to keep track of our birds, and Audubon has ways that we can all do that, from the people in the EAC to the Radnor Conservancy to 4th and 5th graders in school who will love to keep track of the cardinals and blue jays and whatever in their backyard. I want to turn the program over to Steve now, who can really kind of give you a better idea of what the other 12 townships are doing and give you an idea as to the kind of programs that, that Radnor might adopt. And then at the end, if you want to proceed with this program, the major problem we have is we really need to find somebody that's going to lead the program. I refer to this person as Big Bird. We don't have that person yet, and I'm hoping that if we do go forward, that you might have some recommendations to somebody who might be interested in, assuming this responsibility. Steve, you want to? We're supposed to hit escape, and then you're here.
Thanks for having us out tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I will say that we've been promoting or pushing, promoting Birdtown for about a year and a half. It's a new program. You're all familiar probably with the Audubon Society as a sort of the bird watching club or whatever, but it's actually there's 26 state offices, state level. Pennsylvania is one of 26 state offices. And we are really an arm of the national office, which is based in New York City. And then there's 500 chapters throughout the country. Valley Forge Audubon would be the one that covers this area. And they're really the on-the-ground sort of grassroots volunteer groups that go out and lead bird walks and programs. And we work very closely with our chapters. There's 21 in Pennsylvania. So as we began to roll out this program about a year and a half ago, I had certain key towns that I wanted to target or address, and Radnor was close to the top of the list because I've done probably 50 school projects, school habitat projects across the state. I'm responsible for the entire state, and but Radnor's the only place where I did all the elementary schools within a township, within a school district. So we did bird gardens at each one of the elementary schools, and different kinds of bird gardens, different levels of success, but all really engaging the kids, and they're still growing today, as far as I know. I haven't been back in a year or two, but each school has a bird garden, Audubon certified, or not certified, recognized bird garden. That recognition program is also another Pennsylvania sort of exclusive in the Audubon network. People can register their yards once they've put in native plants and some resources for birds. We don't really talk much about bird feeders. They're great for bringing birds close to us, but they're not necessary for birds. We're more about sustaining birds once you bring them onto your property. Anyway, we have this program called the Bird Habitat Recognition Program, where you can register your yard. It's free to do so. You can get a yard sign if you want. And it's only in Pennsylvania. And we have about 500 properties across the state, and many of them in the southeast portion of the state. And as a way to help grow that program, we came up with this idea of working with municipalities to help get some outreach to the constituents in each municipality, and then customize it for your town. What are you capable of doing? What's the capacity of Radnor Township to take on Birdtown? And it really is about creating sustainable communities. And we're in suburban, we're in urban, and we're in several rural communities as well. And this is basically what you're looking at in the typical sort of suburban landscape. Not many native plants, as John laid out. I have another presentation that's much longer and gets into the biological background of the whole thing, and I won't get into that. But it really does come down to native plants in the landscape as the basis for habitat and for some other biological processes that I'll talk about briefly. Common landscape, we have a lot of turf grass in Pennsylvania. It seems in the country, really, and it really is the sort of the Joneses. This is what you want: a nice green lawn, single species, probably chemically treated, I would guess, and really kept weed free. And it really does nothing for wildlife. It does nothing for ecological processes, as I'll talk about. John talked a little bit about why we focus on birds. They are the indicators of environmental health. The proverbial canary in the coal mine. And a biologist, through things like the Christmas bird count you may have heard about, or the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is another citizen science program. They've been monitoring bird populations for over 100 years. Audubon and most recently Audubon and Cornell, the Cornell lab, through these citizen science programs. So really, citizens are the key to biological data that's input. And so bird diversity and bird abundance is carefully monitored and really does indicate changes in the environment, subtle changes and drastic changes. And many of the things you see listed on the bottom there can be determined by the bird population.
Could I ask?
Yep.
Maybe you're going to get to this, but what do those counts say right now about our environment around here? Is it holding its own? Is it getting better?
Well, there's suites of birds that are doing better than others. Some are doing worse than others. Birds that rely on interior forests that may need 600 yards around them, things like scarlet tanagers and worm-eating warblers and things like that, are not faring as well as birds that are okay with suburbia, that adapt to houses and roads, things like robins and cardinals and the blue jays, things that are very common in our suburban life. Things that are much more site-specific, birds that rely on grasslands or interior forests are not doing well. Wetland birds, in cases, are shrinking in population. But Birdtown really addresses, what it does is it really introduces people to bird life. So we're not going to save the scarlet tanagers through our efforts in suburban Birdtown. What we're doing, though, is getting people sort of on board and learning to monitor birds and to provide for them in their yards. And it's very simple to do so. And so we're really addressing the common birds. You see this is the Birdtown logo, and we have the scarlet tanager because Pennsylvania is home to 16% of the world's population of scarlet tanagers. They breed here. And the other birds are common backyard birds. It's a downy woodpecker and a blue jay, and they represent the birds that are probably going to be seen most by people who are involved in a Birdtown program. There's a number of other very common birds in our area, and it's more than birds. But if it was just about birds, it'd be okay, right? I mean, they're beautiful, colorful. They sing, they make noise. They're really a positive part of our lives. Oh, there's another one. But it's also about beauty. It's also about maintaining curb appeal. We don't want to. Their first impression of native plants and landscaping with native plants is, it's going to look wild. It's going to look weedy and wild, and it doesn't have to be. Everything that you want for traditional cultivated ornamental landscape can be had with native plants. Habitat diversity, a mix of species that attracts animals, insects and animals of all kinds, and it closes the loop on the ecological circle. The ecosystem services that I'll talk about a little bit is all done through habitat diversity. Community character. In Pennsylvania, this is Penn's Woods. We like our trees. It's a natural part of the environment. If you let the golf course go without maintaining it, it would eventually become a forest. Pennsylvania wants to become a forest. At one time, a squirrel, they say, could go from end to end without touching the ground on the trees, on the canopy. Well, a long time ago, that was cut down. And what we're doing now is restoring some of those ecological places that have been destroyed. But it's also part of our character. This could be a shot in Pennsylvania, but maybe not. It's maybe not in Nevada or Southern California. This is ours. Birdtown's also very much about stormwater retention, and we do that through habitat landscaping, through replacing turf grass, which is only a little bit better than cement at absorbing water, and creating these beautiful and functional gardens and landscapes. And this is Solebury Township's hall. It's also about getting people involved. It's about kids and families, college students. We did a project at Cabrini a couple of years ago. It's still there. And getting them out into nature. Really, I'm an educator by training, and it's my really personal goal to get kids out in nature. And so you don't have to take them to we have some great state parks around here, but you really can create nature in your own yard or your own schoolyard and have kids experience that and be involved in it by planting it and helping. This is sort of the definition of Birdtown, a working partnership of Audubon to promote conservation and community-based actions to create healthy and more sustainable environments for birds and people. Provide the tools to engage their residents. So when you become a bird town, one of the first things we do is I provide an article that says "Welcome to Birdtown," and that could be published in the if you have a Parks and Rec newsletter or a township newsletter or on the website. Some townships are switching almost solely to website content now. And then I'll do a press release, much like Gail's program, that you can provide to the local paper. And she's right; they're always looking for content. I also provide. I know you have a CATV station, and so we provide content for your CATV station. We just shot a video a couple weeks ago in a park, sort of man on the street thing, asking people nature questions in a park and explaining Birdtown a little bit. And also articles, ongoing articles for your newsletters or website, so that you'll have a constant source of information, and that's how you're going to be able to engage your residents on a constant basis. So it's constantly sort of in their eyes and on their mind. And on your public land, municipal buildings and the like, you want to create demonstration gardens. Really, there's only one required for the program, so if you may have one already. Schools don't count because you already said they're not part of the township, but they have some great examples of what a bird garden could look like and be. But that's a great first step, is to plan a municipal example, a municipal demo garden, and we can help with that, obviously. All right, so schools, you're already there. We got 3 schools, and if you include Cabrini, already doing something. Your schools also will come out to Mill Grove too.
Actually, can I just back up for a
Yep.
second? You said the schools don't count for the municipal demo garden because of what we were saying before about greenhouse gases
Yeah.
and electric purchase. Is there why wouldn't they count if? And my understanding is, although the schools operate independently, I believe the township provides landscape maintenance for the schools, lawn cutting or whatever they would be doing for the parks. They're also doing, I think, on school grounds.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, who's the head of that? Head of the maintenance. Say his name. I'll
I don't know if Leo's head of maintenance.
Leo.
He's director
Yeah,
of
Leo.
operation.
Leo.
Leo Burnby.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they certainly could serve. We want to get the most visibility, and so we usually use public libraries or municipal buildings like this. But schools are certainly a great model program. There's no disqualifier if you don't get your demo garden up. This is not a regulatory program. If you don't get your demo garden, we're not going to pull the signs. We're just going to encourage you to do what Solbury did and Lower Makefield and others. There's not a whole lot of urban environment here, but we have programs for apartments and condominiums and things like that, where there's limited homeowners association issues. And of course, this is more like Radnor here, suburban backyards, and country homeowners, which is like 5 acres or more. I don't know how much of that you have here. And municipal, this is a municipal property.
I'm sorry, could you go back to the suburban and just maybe give a very, very brief explanation of what you're showing here?
Oh, sure. This is actually just an image that was taken off a brochure we made at the national level. There's actually the National Science Office is located in Ivyland, Bucks County, and I worked there for a number of years, and we put these national pieces together. There's this is just off the brochure. This is there's a pond there as a source of water. That's an important thing when you're creating habitat for birds. There's feeders there. There's an oriole on an orange. They like to eat nectar, and an orange is a great way. There's a native wildlife garden down at the bottom left, a birdhouse, and there's a bat house. There's the cat indoors up there in the attic. Keep them indoors. Bird bath, flowering native trees. There's evergreens. So this picture contains just about everything you'd want in a good backyard. There's a screech owl box there. So those are some good things to have if you're registering your property for bird habitat recognition. You'd want all of these things, and you'd want a certain percentage of native plants. 25% or more native woody plants, those are trees and shrubs, are really ideal to have in a backyard, because you can attract them all day long with bird feeders, but they're not going to stay around too long. But if you have native plants, native cover, and native food sources, they'll stay there, and you'll even get nests in your backyard, because that's what the birds have co-evolved with for eons, is these native plants and native plant communities. We get into that a lot too. We want to plant not just a tree in the middle of the yard, but also what grew historically, what grew with that plant in a forest that may not exist anymore. In a backyard, it's a controlled environment, whereas our parks are running. There's deer everywhere. I know you have an issue with deer. We did a project at Ithan, and we met with the teachers inside the school first, and they said, "Oh yeah, we have deer. We've seen 25 out here," and we said, "No way." And then we went out to pick the spot for the garden. There were 25 deer, and so first issue was, let's get a deer fence, a Benner deer fence. And anyway, so deer are an issue, and so the forests here are really in bad shape in southeastern Pennsylvania, especially. You can go into any local park or any local natural area, and you'll see a lot of green, but most of it's invasive plants that the deer won't touch. So they eat all the stuff that's trying to regenerate, things like oaks and viburnums and dogwoods and things like that. They sniff them out and they eat them, and that's really a problem. It's a big issue, but in a backyard, especially one with a fence, you can control that and create a really healthy little environment. It could be a pocket garden with a mix of plants that would have grown here historically, or you can convert a big part of your property. I don't like mowing the lawn. I mean, I have some because I've got kids and a dog, and we play soccer. Not the dog, but the kids play soccer. And so we keep some lawn, but I've also taken about 30-40% of my lawn and converted it to a sort of a woodland garden. And I don't have to rake it. I don't have to mow it. I don't water it. I don't use pesticides, and it's completely self-sustaining, and there's life back there all the time. There's something back there, birds usually. And when John and I talk about insects, and I do this at schools a lot, we want to attract insects to a yard. It's completely counter to what we're learning in horticulture, or what Waterloo will tell you. They're going to sell you the pest-free plant, but we're really attracting insects. And I would say that most native insects are harmless and beneficial in some way. They fit into the ecosystem, into the food web somewhere, and they're really playing a role in the ecosystem. So again, this is Lower Makefield. Did a bird garden at Westchester, also outdoor laboratory. I like that better than bird garden. That sounds very official. But the kids actually, this was about 3 or 4 years ago, and they actually do go out there and study. They do sort of biomass counts, transects, and see how things are growing and what's attracted to these plants. And then you can see that it's all sort of interconnected. Anyway, These are the 10 reasons for becoming a bird town. I hate reading off the screen, so I'll let you do that. I will say that it really is about creating a community cohesion, whereas everybody's sort of has a goal of the same thing. One of the issues I have with the Radnor schools is that we haven't been able to quite reach the parents. We haven't been able to we did a great garden, and the kids took home some Audubon materials, and the kids come out to Mill Grove all the time, and that's great. But we haven't really reached the landscapes, the home landscapes that I know of. I can tell you that through the registration program, I don't have a whole lot of Radnor Township properties, and that's one of the goals of a bird town, is to get more backyards enrolled in that program. And again, it's free for people to enroll. They can choose to get a yard sign or not.
Excuse me, how many people are in Radnor that have backyards that are certified?
Yeah, I'm probably less than 20, I would say, off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and check, but.
With this program, are you giving resources to the homeowners as to how to do it?
Yeah, we share all the resources with the township, and the township becomes the voice, basically. And so you put it on your website. If you have tables at community days, this is a big deal for Birdtown. If you have community days, there'll be a Birdtown presence there. And we could have a live bird come out. We'll have materials there. We've had face painting and all kinds of bird-related activities or bird-focused things. And so we provide those materials for you. And one of the things that's asked of a bird town is that you create either a quarterly or even monthly lecture series. And we'll provide a list of speakers, and I'll do the very first talk. I'll do one I'm doing Great Backyard Bird Count as a citizen science program that happens over President's Day weekend. It's a great way to get kids and families involved who really maybe they don't care about birds, but they may be interested. And the Great Backyard Bird Count is a great way to get people involved. And so I'm doing the first talks in a lot of our bird towns because they're just getting rolling now, and they don't have a lecture series set up yet. But I said, all right, I'm going to do the first one. I'll do a GBBC. That's the Great Backyard Bird Count talk. You get me the venue, you promote it, you advertise it. I'll do a little bit of PR as well, and we'll get a crowd of people in here, and we'll teach them what birds they're going to see in their backyard, how to count them, what it means when you see a particular bird, where do dark-eyed juncos go in the summertime, and that kind of thing. And so, you begin to create regular events through the Birdtown program, and lecture series is a great way to do it. There's so many great speakers in our area, some even right here in Radnor that could talk, and some communities might charge the public to come out and see that. Others are just having free events. Most of them are having free events. So there's, this program is a fundraiser for both for Audubon and for EACs, or the sort of the body who some towns don't have EACs. We're working with a park board in one town, a citizens group in another town. It's the structure is different everywhere, but most towns it's an EAC.
Did you say it's a fundraiser?
Well, it's a fundraiser for the EAC, or for the we help you raise money through the programming. Yeah, that's right.
You mean if you have a lecture series and people pay to attend the lecture series?
Well,
because I just from our experience, and we do a lot of educational programming about very interesting issues. It's hard to draw an audience, so I think charging an audience would just dissuade people from coming altogether.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, there's a number of ways to do that. We have a business program. It's called the Business Support Program, and again, you might not need that because there is a program fee involved with. I don't know how much of the materials you've received already, but there's an annual program fee for Birdtown.
How much is it?
Well, there's two levels. There's $450 a year, or $850 a year, and $850 includes training for 6 backyard advisors. So we do an intensive training. We're doing them regional now because there's so many towns. So it's 6 spots in this 3-day training that will teach people how to assess a backyard ecologically, so that when a constituent calls the township and says, I really want to do this, but I don't know how, you can send a team of people. Now, some townships are looking to raise money, and they might charge for that service. Other townships are just sending teams of people out to help people in their backyards and assess that property. And then in some towns where there's lots of business, I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of through the thing, but these are window decals that would go on storefronts. So you can go to that flower shop, sound like a great idea. You go to them and say, how would you like to support our Birdtown efforts each year? so that it sort of offsets any costs to the township. A lot of townships are laying off people. There's no way they're gonna be able to pay a fee on that. So we're giving them ways to raise money. In Newtown Township, Bucks County, they just ordered about 200 of those plushy birds. Those birds you squeak and it makes noise. They're from Audubon. They're everywhere. I help. When I was in the science office, we helped make sure that they were accurate to the birds. But anyway, Newtown ordered them, and that they're raising money for this fee and for their own work too. Like they want to do what do you call it, rain barrel workshops and things like that, and they need money to raise money for that.
How did the 20 people that are certified now in Radnor get certified without township involvement?
Well, the program is called the Bird Habitat Recognition Program. We're not allowed for legal purposes to say certified. It's not a certification. So it's all done in good faith. They register their property online, and they can make a donation to Audubon, and one-time donation. And a sign is given as a premium for that as well, and they can purchase extra ones if they have larger properties. 80% of the registrants across the state, make a donation and purchase a sign or receive a sign as a premium.
And I had one other quick question. Number 9, do you have a actual formula or metric, converting
Yes.
an acre?
Yeah, we are working, and I'll get to that. I'm going to get to that.
Well, that's very topical for us if you look down the agenda.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you the, does this have internet access, I wonder?
You can distribute that to the group afterwards if you give
Okay,
us,
yeah,
just tell us afterwards.
I will. I'll get you access to it because there's a third-party website that we're working with right now, Conservation Strategies LLC, put together designingwiththenatives.net. It's dwtn.net, and I can do this through email as well. But you have to have access. I have to forward your email addresses to the administrator, and then they'll give you a password, and you'll have access to this. And what it does is it asks individuals to put in certain information about their yard, how many trees they have and how large are they, how much of your yard is turf grass, how much is flower bed, how much is hardscaping, that kind of thing. And there's there's a lot of formulas within this website that calculates that depending on how much carbon a tree will sequester. And these are some of the things that are calculated by this website, dwtn.net. It's just getting going now. It was something that's always part of the vision, is to have this sort of online calculator where you just put in some basic information. How do people live in your house? How many bathrooms do you have? So it calculates energy use in the house as well.
But that sounds like you're establishing a baseline, but I guess my question was, if you say I have 2 acres of ground and I want to convert half an acre to woodland,
Yeah.
is there a way to?
It will calculate. It'll tell you how many trees and shrubs you'll need to plant to offset a certain amount of carbon. Yeah.
Ooh, we like that.
It's also addresses these issues as well. Water, chemicals, and then as people do it individually, let's say in Radnor Township, let's say 50 people register their property, go onto this website, put in their information. You can roll up the data and put it on Radnor's website. And so you do start at a baseline. You start at 0, and then each year you can show improvement, and that's what these little graphs show. Based on how many trees people are planting, how much hardscaping they're replacing or turf grass they're replacing, that kind of thing. And it really it's very simple stuff on the website, but there's all kinds of very complex calculators behind the scenes. These are some of the things that, and these are more of the measurements. We can do acres now because in the current program, people put in how many acres they have or percentage of acreage.
I guess just before we lose Skip's point, please do send to us or to Ann. I know you've been communicating with Ann, whatever information you have on the greenhouse gas reduction attributes.
Yeah, the originator of the website found calculators all over the place, or not in one place, and he decided let's put them all in one place. Let's make it simple for people to input information based on just what they know. A lot of it's done on the measurements of your yard, which you can now get on Google Earth. You can go on Google Earth and click on the ruler and get the exact measurements of your property, and that really starts where the measurements. And this is just that's my note page, but so one of the big things, like I said, is having a presence at the community days, and Audubon, like I said, will come out, and that's why we're focusing on the southeast part of the state. We have interested bird towns in faraway places, but they haven't replicated me yet. So, but just for your own interest, we're in Chester. We're in Schuylkill Township, who's just getting going, and West Vincent is also pretty new. And then in Bucks County, we have Newtown and Pendle Borough, Lower Makefield, and both Doylestown. They're working together. Doylestown Township and Borough working together. In Berks County, we're in Long Swamp Township, which is doing very well. And we're in Allentown. And in Allentown, it's such a big town, that city, that they actually formed a committee with a lot of different stakeholders. And they meet monthly to decide, well, what are we going to do this month? How are we going to roll out Birdtown? And again, these are all fairly new. Not the only one that's been around any length of time is Upper Moreland, and we worked with them a year prior to them becoming an official bird town in October of last year. So that's in lower Montgomery County, along with Lower Frederick, out in western Montgomery County.
So it sounds like a great program. Sounds like there's probably lots of tasks associated with it. So maybe this is a question for John. Do you have your big bird yet, or somebody who is willing to take this on? And I guess I'm just asking that in the context of your inquiry to us. What is it that you're asking from the EAC?
Well,
just support for you to propose this, or?
Well, the answer to your first question is no, we don't have a big bird yet, but I'm hoping that as the program gets greater exposure, that somebody will, step forward to become the liaison with Audubon and direct the program. And what we're asking tonight is just your recommendation to the township that you think this is a program worth pursuing. Obviously, there are other steps we have to take before we officially adopt the program, but we at the Conservancy consider it a very worthwhile program, and we're hoping the township in general. I think we need to start to raise, awareness among the residents of the township as to how they can improve the environment of their backyard, and each residence you get is just a step closer to improving our overall environment health.
Mm-hmm. And so, just so I understand, there are requirements in addition to the program fee that was mentioned, $450 or $850, that the requirements would be something that the Big Bird would be responsible for, coordinating lecture series, getting the word out, those types of things. Okay. All right.
Well, if I could, while I'm up here, push an event that the Conservancy is co-sponsoring with the Radnor Library and with Jenkins Arboretum. This is the first time that we've co-sponsored something with Jenkins, but Doug Talamay, who is kind of the god in this area, is going to come speak on February the 22nd at Jenkins, and we're hoping to fill the room because Doug is really probably the national expert on native plants, and he's going to talk about his new book.
Okay, great.
So is there a request, John, for an official statement from the EAC, or what's
yes. And
that
if you could do it tonight. The Parks Board has said, well, we want to consider it after the EAC has considered it. Because this is, I think, probably primarily an EAC initiative as opposed to a Parks initiative, although we would certainly hope that the Parks Board would buy into this, and we could start to do some of these projects within our, within our parks, within our areas that are not actually official parks, but are open space. It's really dedicated for environmental protection, such as West Wayne Preserve and other tracts of that nature, which don't really invite park participants, but are critical to the environment of the township.
Well, I think based on everything we've heard tonight, I think it sounds like a great program, certainly something that I personally would favor and would endorse, provided that we have the Big Bird person, the person who's willing to step up and organize it all. Because that was one of my concerns initially when you had reached out to Ann. I'm not sure that we have a Big Bird sitting here.
Well, we're not recommend. We're not requiring that the big bird come from here. If anybody,
Yeah.
you know, who's sitting up here would love to do it, that would be great.
Yeah.
But we're not here to say, all right, EAC board, you know,
Take
find
this
us a big
on,
bird.
right.
But we need to find somebody that's going
Right.
to run the program.
Right.
But we also need a buy-in that people
Yeah.
think it's a
Yeah.
worthwhile project.
Yeah, I think if that's helpful, I would certainly be happy to make a motion that the EAC signal support for the initiative, the Birdtown Initiative, and, you know, subject to, you know, a leader, but I think it sounds like a great program. I'd be happy to make that motion.
That
for-
sounds good. So then the motion would be
Would
to support the Birdtown
Birdtown,
proposal, provided that you can find a leader to take up.
Exactly.
By the way, this could be done through committee. I mean, in some towns, there's so much energy around the program that 2 or 3 people are meeting, you know, monthly
Yeah.
as a committee sort of thing to get together, or the whole, not the
Right.
whole AC. It's a park board in Lower Frederick, for example,
Yeah.
that formed sort of a subcommittee. You can form a subcommittee, and they meet monthly, and sometimes I'll go and we'll
Yeah.
talk it out. And so it can be done that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one person, and it's really Birdtown is also really about a recognition. It's using the Audubon name to recognize everything you've done and are doing as an EAC and as the Conservancy. We work closely with Radnor Conservancy
Yeah.
and know they do some great work. And we want that to be more public. We want the public to know what you're doing.
And I bet that there would be interest from the EAC in participating in a working group or, you know, that sort of thing. I'm not sure we have the leader, but
Yeah, I don't know that we have the resources to take it on ourselves, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that probably many of us would
Yeah.
participate in
Yeah.
a committee if that's what
Well, the committee
responds.
might be the approach to take. I know certainly the Conservancy is going to continue to promote the program because we think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So maybe it does need to be a kind of a community-wide
Yeah.
committee.
Right.
Okay.
So based on that,
Can I
Sure.
just, as the secretary, let me get this straight, and then I was going to second the motion, but I just want to make sure I know what it is. Is it a motion to express support for Radnor Township's participation in the Audubon Birdtown program?
I think
I
that
think
is
that's
it.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Okay. So,
And I don't
Yeah,
think,
I'm
we- right,
seconding
and I
it,
think
so
we
it's made
talked
and
about sort of a
seconded, yeah.
proviso that, you know, somebody takes on the responsibility, the main responsibility to lead it, because we're going to need.
Whether that's a
that.
committee
Whether it's
or
well, do we want to
individual
make it
individual.
contingent on that, or
No,
or
I'd-
do we
I'd
just?
say
want-
we
No, I
we're
think we can
supportive
just
of it.
support
Yeah.
it.
But
right.
recognizing
Okay.
there will
Yeah.
need to be a
Yep.
leadership.
Right.
And if one of us has a friend or identifies someone who might be the big bird, what's the step to sort of move it to the
I think
next
you can
level?
just back to me.
Okay.
And I'll pass it along to Steve.
Great, okay. So, Ann, your second.
Yes, I second it.
Great. We have a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Anyone against?
Great.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Terrific.
Appreciate your time. Okay, very good. Now, we're going to move things around on the agenda a little bit here because Sloan needs to head out. So we're just going to move up our Water Sense Partnership EAC tip of the month so that
Thank you
he
very
can do
much.
that.
My excuse for leaving early is it's my daughter's 13th birthday tonight, so I better get to the party. But the tip of the month from EPA Water Sense is to conduct a home water audit, similar, I think, to the concept of the home energy audit that Josh walked us through. Conduct a home water audit yourself or with help from a professional, or consult your utility company. Many water providers will conduct home water audits for free or provide you with a kit to do that. Now, I saw that and I was intrigued, so I went online and surfed around and found a little how to do a water audit, which I can send around to the group. I didn't make extra copies, but basically this was something done by the state of Maryland a few years ago, and they recommend a couple of different ways to do it. The easiest way is to do it from your water bill if your water bill includes the gallons used. You can do it by looking at if the bill doesn't include that, you can collect the water use from the home meter. And if you don't have a meter, they go through some steps for essentially working out little experiments to figure out how much you're using on a daily basis. Luckily, I checked our water bill, and Aqua America kindly breaks out gallons and days. So I did a little quick math and found that for the 28 days in the latest billing period, mid October to mid November, our family of 4 used 6,200 gallons of water. So dividing by 28, that was 221 gallons a day. And dividing by 4 people, that was 55, a little more than 55 gallons a person. And that is interesting because in this little review, they talk about where you want to be. They say the average American uses almost 100 gallons a day.
Wow, very impressive.
Which was pretty good. I was happy to see.
Short showers.
We weren't. Yeah, exactly. And they consider being less than 80 gallons a day per person very, very good. So that was our little review. I looked at the monthly use. The highest months of the year of our use were February and March, where we had a little bit more than 225 gallons, which is about the same. Lowest was in the summer. I think it's mostly because we were away. So we can't take too much credit there. But we do have a couple of water-efficient appliances and a low-flush toilet, a front-loading clothes washer, but nothing too spectacular. I mean, kids are pretty good at turning off the water during brushing their teeth and filling up the sink with water for washing dishes. But bottom line is it looked like it was an extraordinary effort to get to a pretty good number. So encourage anybody who would like to do the same experiment and share their results. So that's
Great.
the Water Sense
Very
tip of the
good.
month.
Thank you. And actually, before you head out, I'm going to do the other items under sustainability here. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are having our next program, our next sustainability series program in January. It'll be on January 26th, right after our EAC meeting. So it'll be from 7 to 9 p.m., and it's going to focus on electric vehicles and the infrastructure. So the program will discuss, what are the electric vehicles, what do they look like, how do they work, who's got them, what are the infrastructure needs, and we'd invite everybody to come out, learn about electric vehicles, particularly because Radnor Township has just installed the first public electric vehicle charging station in Wayne, up in the North Wayne parking lot. And we will have at this presentation Jay Carless, who is Vice President of Community Energy, who Radnor Township had partnered with for the installation of this system that will be powered by wind power, actually. So if you go and you charge up at the electric vehicle charging station with your vehicle, you're getting wind power. So, sort of a double bonus there. Scott Baker will be presenting. He's with PJM Interconnection. That's our electric grid, so he'll talk about how it all works with the grid. Brad Malotsky, General Counsel of Brandywine Realty Trust. They are going to have the second electric vehicle charging station in Radnor. They'll have it set up between 2 parking spots. So one will be Brandywine dedicated, but the other one will be public. So again, another place to go and charge electric vehicles. And John Bettinger from Thomas Chevrolet will be here as well to talk a little bit about the cars. And
He's going to bring
right, he's going to bring a Volt. So if you arrive early at 6:15, you can check out the Volt. There will be a demo display program beginning at 7 o'clock. And I just want to mention that before Sloan leaves, because he's done a terrific job helping to pull this particular program together, and also because Sloan now owns a Volt, so you may see him charging up at the charging station, and then likewise just an update on that charging station, which is now in place in North Wayne in the parking lot there by the senior center. And there will be a ribbon cutting ceremony to dedicate that on Monday, December 5th. Starting at 9:30 a.m. Community Energy will be there. There will be various folks, our commissioners and other folks that have been involved in that. And Sloan will be there with his Volt as well, right?
Well,
Okay,
well.
very good. Very good. We look forward to that. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so getting back on our agenda, the next item up is our greenhouse gas action plan. And our fearless leader, Josh Hilbert, has been helping us to move forward with this. And I was not at the last meeting, but I watched it on video afterwards, and it looked like you made some good progress there. And I know you've updated it based upon revisions you received since that last meeting. And I guess what we're hoping to do is, maybe try to wrap up the greenhouse gas action plan if we can at this meeting. If there's still issues we need to finalize, we'll get that done, but so that we can get it to the township staff for review before the end of the year and get their input on what we've put together.
So I've received revisions of our members' sections individually, and they're nearly the whole document, or quite a bit of the document has been reworked since the last time we went through it, only in minor ways, nothing major. So maybe I wanted to talk to you to find out what did you want to do tonight, and do we want to go over it with a fine-tooth comb, or do we want to maybe say, okay, it's in near final form right now. Maybe I should distribute that, because none of these members have seen that yet, the new form. Maybe I should distribute it by email tomorrow or tonight, and we can get an
and then
approval.
have everybody do one last review of it.
And
right.
get everybody's blessing by email.
Okay. Is
What do you
everybody in favor of doing that? Okay, very good, because I think we are pretty close here, and we just need to wrap up a few loose ends, so.
And I don't know if it would be timely or not, but it'd be good to get that information from the Audubon folks, if we can use it in some way. If,
Yeah, you're talking about the greenhouse gas savings for lawn mowing savings, right?
well, I think it's beyond that. I think
be.
I would like to think that it's, it's greenhouse gas, certainly in terms of the mowing, but in terms of maybe leaf collection, all sorts of, collateral things might be reduced too.
Wasn't maybe the last item in there sustainable parks policy? And I wonder, even if we don't have that information, if we might either tuck in under that one or broaden it to have a recommendation that the township participate in that, and then that would achieve additional greenhouse gas reductions that perhaps, we weren't accounting for under that particular line item, but it seems to be related.
Sure, yeah, and I think we have it covered, but I think maybe we should make mention of this program possibly,
Since we've now endorsed it.
since we've endorsed it, and since we can plug native species, which we haven't done in sustainable parks. I don't think, well, maybe we have done that actually, but regardless, we can make sure that is put into that section.
Okay, and then the other thing that we were talking about putting into that section was under the Green Power, just to mention the Green Power partnership that Gail had spoken about as well. Just drop that in there.
Sure.
That makes sense? Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess just to make that official, we should probably have a motion and a second and vote on proceeding to send this on to the township staff once we've got the last few items tied up.
So I'll move that the
Draft
draft be circulated for approval by email, and upon approval by email, that it be transmitted to the township.
staff for review.
And
review.
should we put a date on that? Can we? A deadline?
Oh, to get back?
To have it done by, December 15th or something like that.
Since everybody
Because
has had this.
we're not meeting again until
Right, yeah.
late January.
Right.
So we don't want to pass it along in January. We want to pass it
No, that's
along
why I said
like next
approval
week.
by email.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
So what do you think?
So all final comments, perhaps, I don't have a calendar, but, let's get final comments back to Josh within 1 week of tonight, and then you can turn that around. I assume everybody's giving you track changes, and then we do like final approval within 1 week from then. How's that sound? Whatever those dates are.
Yeah. Okay, I'll look them up.
Okay. Great. So we have
Sounds
a
good.
motion on that?
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we approve the draft greenhouse gas reduction action plan. Once we've reviewed it this week and we've had a chance to look at it, we'll exchange comments and changes by email. This is longer than you have to write down in, but I'll make such a move for that.
You're okay, Ann?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Okay, so basically, the motion is that the greenhouse action plan is to be recirculated to the EAC for final comments to Josh by 1 week from today, and then approval, vote by email by the following Tuesday. And once approved, the plan is to be transmitted to the township staff for comment.
That's
Yep.
right.
Okay, I'm good, we can vote.
Okay.
I
Do you
guess
wanna
there's a second.
that?
Yes.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Anyone opposed? Great. Passes. That's our plan. Very good. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Josh, for all your hard work on this. You've been doing a fabulous job. Okay. Yes? Yes. Come on up.
As the Board of Health liaison, these ladies were at our last meeting, and that's what I was going to report here tonight, so I'll let them have the floor.
Thank you so much. We're here to see whether the Environmental Committee is aware that Radnor Township is spraying Roundup on the trail.
Radnor Township?
Yes.
Okay, and I just questioned that because I was talking to Kelly beforehand, and she was just exchanging with me what information that the Board of Health had received, and I thought there was some issue about PICO doing that. No?
It was Radnor Township.
Okay.
Did you confirm that after the meeting?
I confirmed that before the meeting with the Parks and Recreation Director.
Because I know Commissioner Fisher was going to look into that.
And he did.
Did he get back to you on that?
He said that he met with a manager, I'm not sure who it was, but that they were going to look into it, but nothing definite.
Okay.
So
And where is this taking place?
on the Radnor Trail.
On the Radnor Trail?
Mhm.
And did you speak to anybody as to why they're doing it? I'm just asking because I know that when that the township, when it does the care and maintenance of the school properties, that it uses chemical-free care of those. So it sounds a little inconsistent with what they're doing over at the schools. Did you
Yeah.
get any explanation as to why it's being handled differently, or?
They just said it's for weed control, but the trail is full of weeds anyway, so it's...
There's a little yellow orange flag.
Actually, it's right on here if you want to pass this around. The flag is right. That's a photocopy of what they're putting.
Property now that there's toxic material been sprayed, so, I mean, and I saw a van going up the trail the other day, driving up it, so.
Okay.
You're aware if there's a toxic flag.
And so have you talked to the township manager about this, or?
I have, and he was very ignorant and closed-minded, I guess I should say, saying that it was completely safe that they're spraying this, and that was really the end of it.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to follow up with the township manager and see what else we can find out about it. As I said, my understanding is at the schools, they're using some sort of safe, chemical-free type of treatment to care for. So to me, it sounds a little inconsistent with
Right.
what they're doing over there, so we can certainly find out.
Right, well, if you look
Is your
on the-
information on here?
I can give you
Okay.
something with my information, but if you look in the flag in the corner, that's what they have posted, and it has the Parks and Recreation phone number. So it's definitely Radnor Township that's spraying.
Okay. All right. Well, we're happy to look into that for you and see what we can find out about it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And why don't you leave me your name and number so we can follow up and see what's
Okay.
going on?
Okay, great.
Okay.
I just want to thank you guys for your patience.
Do you encourage, like, township members to come to these meetings?
Yes, we absolutely do, and
So I would
we're.
have thought it would have been, like, if people do, rather than, like, there would be a comment period at the beginning of the meeting rather than right at the end.
We usually try to take care of our business and first, and then have the
Sometimes
comment
it's
period.
They got to spend like 3 hours.
Yeah.
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 Our typical meetings are closer to an hour.
Right, right. We had 2 guest presenters, and we typically don't. Our meetings are usually done by 7:30.
If you want to make it friendly for people to come and contribute, then, you know,
Okay.
earlier on is
I actually, if you can give me your email, I'll email you a list of literature because I forgot to attach it to this.
Okay. Okay.
And can I just get your name so I can note it down?
And that's Angela
Okay.
Walker.
And if you can just give your phone number or email to Ann so that we have it, so we can get back in touch with you.
610
Okay.
525
Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I guess phone number.
Does anyone have anything else under community environmental awareness? No?
F is in Frank.
Skip?
That's right. I'll wait for my liaison spot, or unless we're
Well,
not
go
doing
ahead
it.
with your liaison.
Let's just,
report. Yeah,
it's
we'll
both.
just get
it's
right
both.
there.
It just seemed to be an appropriate thing. So on the Luella Court project, I made a recommendation at the last planning commission meeting that they consider installing charging stations for the use of condo owners. And at a minimum, the developer said that he would put power at each underground parking spot so that people who wanted to create their own charging station could hook it up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, good, good. And thank you for you had circulated information by email about the charging stations at the King of Prussia Mall.
Yeah,
as well.
there's 2 installed and 2 more to go. There'll be 4 altogether.
Right, right. It's great.
Which one? Oh, it's Luella Court. It's a proposed development. This coming planning commission meeting will be their 16th meeting before some board, commission, or entity in the township so far.
It's a lot of meetings.
For an underground garage with a green roof, just saying.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, and Kelly, do you have anything in terms of liaison reports, or that was it? Okay, all right. And that seemed to be a little inconsistent with what you had said was reported at Board of Health. So we'll reach out to the township and see what we can find out. Very good. Is there any other old business? Or if not, any other new business? No? Okay, very good. Well then, thank you all very much, and it's been a pleasure working with everybody this year, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody in the new year.
Briefly,
Oh, go ahead.
how about an end-of-the-year report?
Yeah, end of the year report, written report.
Yeah,
annual
usually
report.
we do a summary. We do that in January? Is that the idea? or-
We do. Are you just suggesting it, or are you volunteering to
I
prepare?
thought Sloan said something about that.
Okay,
So,
I do. Right. I actually do have it.
I think, yeah, he's not here, so that's pretty
Right.
easy to.
I do have it on the to-do list, and so, I can try to pull something together, and then we'll take a look at it in January. I'll just use the same format as last year, which actually worked pretty well, just looking back at the terrific minutes that we have. It is so easy to prepare when we have good minutes.
And speaking of minutes, did we not do community environmental awareness? It's on the agenda.
We did do it, but there was no.
Okay, all right. I missed it.
It was quick, very quick. Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much.